Now, I know one of the rules was don't put alcohol in the mould, but it doesn't say anything about squirting it on top, so I used the alcohol on top. I know, just call me a rebel. Hey, welcome back to my channel. It's Wendy here from Toonpish Crafts and I hope you're doing okay. A few weeks ago, Roger from Intoresin contacted me and asked me if I'd like to try a couple of his brooch moulds. They're handmade moulds and they're in crystal form. I was like, yes, I'd love to, Roger. I don't know when I'm going to fit it in, but I really would love to try them. Now, he did ask me if I could fit them in before Valentine's, and it's so close to Valentine's, I don't think this qualifies really, but I did make a couple of brooches out of them, so let's see how I get on with the Intoresin brooch moulds. So these are the two Intoresin flower brooch moulds. One is a generic flower, I believe, and the other is a lotus. They do have a care sticker in the packaging, and I shall go into that in more detail later. The moulds are very, very high class quality. They are extremely shiny, and you can see how they're glistening in the light, and that is hard to film. I'm going to give you a close up because I want you to see the detail in these moulds. They are so well made. Look at the shininess and the glistening of that crystal effect. Absolutely beautiful. Looking forward to making these. As I said before, the silicone is really high quality and I love the fact that they're two-tone. I think that just adds to them. Now this is the care guide. It says don't touch the crystal effect part with your hands. Avoid using torch or flame on the mould. Only use tape to clean this handmade mould. Don't wash it or use alcohol to clean it. Store the mould flat and separately in a zipper bag in a cool, dry environment after use. I'm going to be using Intoresin for this project. I do have a 15% discount code for Intoresin, which is on the screen, and it'll also be in the description box below, together with Roger's moulds at Intoresin and any other products that I use, including the Little Miss Piggy Twinkle colour from the Fluid Art Company. This is a pigment very like a ghost pigment. It has blues, purples and pinks in it, and it is adorable, and I'm just going to put a very small amount in this resin to give it a shimmer, but not too coloured. I want you to be able to see these items when they come out, but as this is the first time I'm making them, I think a lighter colour would show off the crystal effects of the mould first. That's my thinking anyway. But this colour is absolutely gorgeous. Once it's all mixed up, it's going very slowly into the mould. Now there's lots of little nooks and crannies with these moulds, and I'm sorry this bit's out of focus, but I do try and get it in focus in a little bit. But I'm trying to manoeuvre the resin around to get all the bubbles or stuck air out without sticking anything into the mould, because the moulds are very fragile. Now I do have a silicone stick that you saw there, and I am going to use some kind of implement to make sure that every drop of stuck air is eliminated. The silicone tool actually will help me with this because it's not going to damage the mould at all. Sometimes I use micro brushes, but I figured that would be quite rough. So this silicone tool has got to be my better option. Silicone on silicone is not going to hurt it. And I'm trying really hard to eliminate any bit of air in here. I really want these pieces to come out perfect without putting it in the pressure pot. I could put this in the pressure pot, but I know a lot of people don't have a pressure pot, so I'm doing it without. Now I am making a bit of a mess here. I am pushing the resin out as well as in the expectations that I need to get under those lips, because it does have a lips, but I can always clean up afterwards. I'm not too worried about making a mess. I top it up a little bit more and then I'm onto the lotus. Now I know this lotus is full of undercuts, and undercuts are notorious for not getting any resin, for holding in those air pockets, and I'm trying with the silicone tool to get into all those places. I'm finding this very difficult because I actually can't remember where all the little nooks and crannies are. It's such a tight little mould that I'm just pushing the silicone tool randomly in places, hoping that I've got everything. But I am going for it, and I do not want to give in for this. I want this to come out spot on. If I can get this without any flaws, I will be very happy. But we will have to wait and see for that one. I'm topping it up, and again I'm trying to get all those little undercuts filled with resin. Now I know one of the rules was don't put alcohol in the mould, but it doesn't say anything about squirting it on top, so I used the alcohol on top. I know, just call me a rebel. The alcohol breaks the surface tensions and allows any bubbles out. And now I did go onto a micro brush just as the last knock-ins to get any of those micro bubbles out of the top in this lotus mould. When I've finished poking and prodding this mould as much as I can to get the air out, I give it a squirt of isopropyl alcohol, and I've got it curing on the Estoyo heat mat with low temperature for 4 hours under the tent. Later that day I could demould, and when I pick the lotus flower up I can see a flaw on the top. This was a popped air bubble. Now that should have rung alarm bells really. It does make sense when I've demoulded, but I didn't know at this point, and it's cured so there's nothing I can do. It's a little tricky to get out of the mould as I didn't want to damage it, and it was still a little soft. But this was just about 4 or 5 hours after pouring. But now you can see the issues that I had. There's 3 or 4, I think there's 4 leaves that don't have any resin in them. That's where the air pocket came from, and although I managed to get most of the leaves correct, those 4 are really annoying. I will have to go back to the drawing board and try and do it again. But the design of this lotus is absolutely gorgeous with the pearl in the centre. It's lovely. Moving on to the second flower, and I hope I don't have as much trouble with this one. It's coming out of the mould easier and it is gorgeous. The shimmer of the colour, it's just stunning, and it looks like glass. It crackles in the light like you would get on crystal glass, like a chandelier, and that pearl in the middle is just screaming to be a different colour. Absolutely beautiful. Now this lotus flower, it annoyed me that I didn't get that right. It really did. So now I'm going to just check out this mould again to see where all those little bits are that I've missed. Maybe I just didn't poke my silicone tool in the right place. But it still is a beautiful mould. So take 2. And this time I'm going to put a bit more colour in. I'm going to use this little piggy pigments in Unicorn and Maraschino. So I've mixed up the Estoyo resin, I've mixed in some colour, and I've put them in needle top bottles. Now here's the thing, these needle top bottles are metal, and I do not want to touch the mould very much at all, if any. But I plan on pushing the colour down into the mould, so I'm going to be really careful, but hopefully I'm going to get that colour in where I want it. I'm squirting the colour into the openings, and you can actually see where the reflection is of the undercuts. Now I'm not too bothered if these two colours actually merge or meld together, but what I do want is put them in the mould so that each undercut is full. Now this mould that I'm doing is actually the easier one of the two, and that's where I started first because I knew it was quite simple. I've put my red in, and now I'm going to put this gorgeous blue in. I'm not too worried if these two colours merge together, although the resin has been sitting for about 15-20 minutes, so it's getting quite warm. because of that, I had to take the needle top off because it was really difficult to push through the nib. So I just pulled the metal part out and it left me with the plastic part, which is actually better for the lotus. Now, again, I did go back to the needle top bottle with the red on this lotus, but you can see where the red is in the undercuts, and I'm pushing it down into those areas and pushing that resin into those areas, hoping that this time I'm going to get it right. But there's a lot of undercuts and I'm still struggling to see where they are. So they've been curing on my heat mat for about 6 hours. They are still a little soft, but I figured they are good enough to come out the mould. I was so excited to see if I'd actually done what I wanted to. The red is a stunning red. It's got a little touch of orange to it, but I think it's so vibrant. That red is gorgeous. It's one of my favourite reds. It's definitely one I would recommend. But the flower has come out beautifully. And the lotus, will it be complete without going in a pressure pot? Because I think this would work really well in a pressure pot. It is a little tricky because I don't want to bend it because it is a little soft. Well, it's disappointing because it isn't perfect, but it's better than the last time. There's only 2 little leaves with areas missing. The one next to the pearl and the one that looks like a crab's claw at the top, but it's come out absolutely beautiful. The colours are gorgeous. I do love these moulds and I think that lotus will work best in a pressure pot. I did talk to Roger about this before I put the video up and asked him his opinion, and this is what he told me. Before curing, the first method is to slightly raise the mould in the other direction when pouring the resin so that the resin is thicker on the shallower part. After curing, the second method is to check whether the leaves are incomplete after the resin is cured. If they are incomplete, don't get it out of the mould. Just add more resin to make the area thicker to repair the leaves. That does make complete sense to me. Unfortunately, I ran out of time to make any more of these lotuses, but I do think the moulds are gorgeous. If you like crystals, if you like flowers, then these are ones to consider. I did put some brooch pins on the back of the 2 larger flowers, so they are now complete brooches, and I think they work really well. I just used some E6000 to glue on the brooch pins. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this one and I hope you've got something out of it. Thank you so much, Roger and Intoresin, for letting me try these moulds out. I've had a lot of fun and I'm only sorry that I never got to do any more. Maybe I'll come back to this in the future. Anyway, come back and see me next week because you never know what I'm going to be up to. I never know what I'm going to be up to. Have a great week. Happy crafting and don't forget Friday Knockout.